Hey guys, welcome back to Faith Unraveled for another episode of Faith Unfiltered Q&A. We've got a couple questions today around sexuality, post deconstruction, and I think the question is more than anything like coming into your own sexuality and how has that changed and how does that look different after deconstruction? I know it looks pretty different for us, so it should be interesting. I haven't seen the question, so I'm just going based on what you told me, but I'm excited to talk about this because I think it's an interesting / important
there was two
topic.
There were two comments on YouTube around this.
So do you want to go ahead and dive into the questions?
Yes, I'd love to dive into
I can tell you're
question.
excited for this one.
Alicia, maybe you should take a Chief Tes class. Expand your boundaries.
I think this is a good suggestion. Did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think this is a big topic because I think in the church, there's a lot of purity culture in the church that kind of drives a mindset in certain ways. And as a kid, you're always taught that sex is, if you do something wrong in that area, then you're going to be going to the bishop. So I think it has a lot of impact on people. We know people that on their honeymoon night didn't have sex at all because they were so traumatized by it.
Okay. So would I take a strip tease class? That's the question.
Yeah.
So I think in order to address this, we first have to talk about the fact that growing up in the church, you have been taught your whole life that your body is a source of temptation to men around you. So being told to cover your shoulders, my shoulders have now been sexualized. Being told to cover your thighs or your knees and knees have just been sexualized. What other reason would they be asking you to cover them up? And it's not for other women, right? It's for
the men.
It's for the men. And so deconstructing from religion was interesting for me on so many fronts. And the modesty front was really just one of them. And for me, taking off my garments was a really big deal. Throwing away my garments was an even bigger deal. So we wear sacred underwear, which looks like a little camisole and little biker shorts that like go down to your knees. And when I say little, they're not little. They're monstrous underwear. But to me, they were very sacred because when those are given to you, you're told these will be a protection to you from the powers of Satan until you finish your work on the earth.
Yeah. Not only were you told that they are protection, but it was in your temple questions that you have to wear them all the time.
Yes, it was. And not only that, people notice if you're wearing them or not.
Yeah, because you have this white.
Yeah. So it's like a signal to all the world that you're wearing them.
Yeah.
And anywhere you go, like we'd go to Disneyland on the hottest freaking day of the year, and you would be wearing this second layer of clothes, these like polyester, synthetic. They would stick to you. Like in Arizona, we'd go visit in Arizona. I'm like, I don't know. These are the most faithful saints there ever was that live in Arizona. So now you see a lot of people that like wearing the shorter shorts and the tank tops, just going out doing their thing. And I'm just like, but I see them sending their kids on missions. Power to ya. When I was a member of the church, I would not have gone out without my garments.
Yeah.
Unless I was literally running to the gym.
When I was young, I don't think there was options for two sets of like a top and a bottom. They only had a onesie.
Oh, it was a onesie. Yeah.
You'd have to slip into it, right?
But tell me how normal it is to receive a phone call from a family member. Are so-and-so still active? Why? Why do you ask? Well, I just saw a Facebook post. They weren't wearing their garments. Yeah. We went out to Hawaii one time.
Oh, let's tell this story.
And you were like, please, one night, can you not wear your garments?
I did.
Please, can you not wear your garments one night?
We were going to a family banquet. It was
for a wedding.
For a wedding, right before, it was a family dinner right before for the wedding itself.
And I was just like, this is a major source of contention for me. I can tell this is not something that you have prayed about. But I was like, all right, I'll do it. So we pick out a dress. It's got like a gaping neckline. Other than that, I mean, it was a really freaking, I still bought a little sweater to go over my shoulders. I wore it as if I was wearing garments, but that gaping neckline apparently gave it away because when we were at dinner, the family member's friend across the table from us. But I must add, Jamie's parents are converts to the church. So his extended family, cousins, uncles, aunts,
they're not
are
members.
not members of the church. And so we're sitting at this banquet table, and the person across from us starts talking about, why aren't you ordering drinks?
Yeah.
It's always an issue for people that don't order drinks, apparently. And we were like, oh, normally Jamie would have just said, I'm good. But of course, I had to be a little missionary. Oh, it's because we're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I think I just said we're LDS.
I think you said we're Mormons.
Yeah, we're Mormon. And she was like,
no, you're not. You're not Mormon.
You are definitely not Mormon.
And we're like,
and I was like, wait.
What do you mean? How do you know we're not Mormon? And she's like,
points at me.
You're not wearing garments. Oh man, did I get the dirtiest stare from you?
Like, do you see? Satan just came right in there. Satan just came right in there. I felt so much shame. I felt so much embarrassment. I had to explain to her that we really were super Mormon, and we were just, I was just not wearing them because he didn't want me to wear them tonight. Like, how do you explain this to someone? I'm like, how do you know about the garments? You're not a member of the church and you're like lecturing me on my garments. No, she wasn't really.
She wasn't lecturing.
She was just like, you don't seem very Mormon. Oh, that was horrible. Nowadays.
This is from a non-member too, which was even better.
She's not even a member of the church. Okay. So how does this have to do with striptease? When I deconstructed, I remember actually being like, I don't have to wear my garments. Oh, I'm not going to wear my garments. Like, it was such a mixed feeling. I was so like, I felt so torn on it because they were something that was so sacred to me. But I was also like, I could wear whatever I wanted. Like, oh my gosh, this is like phase 2 of deconstruction. This does not happen the day of. Like,
how long did it take you to know?
Months.
Yeah.
I want to say it was maybe weeks. It felt like a long time.
I think it was months. And then you wouldn't throw them right away. I put
them into a bag.
Yeah.
This is my recommendation. If you're having trouble parting from your garments, I know this is not a problem for everyone. Put them into a trash bag and put them like up high in a closet. Just like they say to do with things that you're not sure if you want to toss or not. Let them sit there for a year. Okay. They can sit there for a year. They can sit there for 2 years. And then after this period of time, then you can decide what you're going to do with them. And I remember actually walking them out to the side of my house trash, opening up, throwing them away. No, I did not cut out the symbols. By the time I threw them away, I was very well into my deconstruction. And I was like, I'm sorry, that was not sacred to me. Those were Masonic symbols. They have no meaning to me anymore.
So, how do you feel about it now?
So now it's like, okay, well then, so first phase, taking off the garments. Second phase, learning that your shoulders are not a sexual object, okay? Your fucking knees and thighs are not sexual parts of your body, okay? Your midriff is not a sexual part of your body. That is your body. You can present it to the world
the way you want it to.
However you want to. I think that going out dancing, which is the closest thing that I've done to being on a stripper pole, or whatever the question was.
Striptease.
It was so liberating. It just made me love my body more. Like I feel like I wasn't really allowed to love my body. Because for one thing, it's not even your body.
Was that at Coco Bongos where you felt that? Or was that before that?
In Cancun?
Yeah.
No, we did some dancing before that.
Okay.
We would get together with friends and dance.
Yeah.
And just like I said it before in an episode, but just like having a shot of tequila really helps if it's like the first time you've ever gone out. But the process of just like getting comfortable in your own body is such an important part of deconstruction. And then you will start to see how vilified our bodies have been. The church has systematically vilified our bodies.
Yeah, that was one of the questions. The post was around how women have never really got to know their bodies. Like, you're not allowed to masturbate, right? So, learning what turns you on and what like feels good, whether it's a man or a woman, you don't have that opportunity. Or if you did, like, you're going to the bishop and repenting for that.
Right. For me, self-exploration was very important. I thought I had experienced that as a kid. And then once we deconstructed and we actually started looking at our sexual relationship and and individually our sexuality, I realized that I really had never done any self-exploration. I mean, I thought I had, but apparently not. There's a lot of tools that you can use. I really recommend Sex with Emily. I am certainly not an educator on this topic. I'm not an expert in this topic, but I do think that listening to both Natasha Helfer and Sex with Emily, both of those women helped me during this process of getting back in touch with my body. I highly recommend the Womanizer, which is a battery operated object.
Toy.
Well,
and we've gone through multiple toys too.
Yeah.
To figure out like what works well or what you like.
Yeah. Like once you realize that your body can have the same amount of pleasure that like your husband is apparently getting every time you have sex, it becomes a whole new experience. And I actually feel bad for you because you can't have as many orgasms as I do.
That's true. That is definitely true. So then would you take a class on a striptease class?
I think a striptease class would be phenomenal. I think that would be phenomenal. So whoever suggested that, thank you for your suggestion.
Yeah.
I think that's great. But yeah, we have to there's like this period that I want to call like a rebellion. And it's just a rebellion against the arbitrary rules that were placed upon you so that you could fit in that box. And without that, like you don't have to go too crazy. I mean, it's up to you, but explore outside. That's where the adventure is. And that's where the self-discovery is. And when you're talking about your sexuality, I look at that now as a very central part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And
no one owns that, right? God doesn't own that, because someone else in the comments said that's God's body. That's God's temple. You need to, operate it as if it's God's.
To be honest with you, I really think that the purity culture that we're programmed with detaches us from our bodies. And so many women have this experience coming out of the church and feeling like they are not capable of making decisions. They're very slow to make decisions. They're not decisive on things. And when I started to break down purity culture, I felt more quick. I felt more decisive. I felt like I had more of an opinion on things. And I don't know what that's about, but there was a ritual that we went to where we could each burn something. It was kind of like a Burning Man ritual. And I wrote on the piece of paper that I wanted to burn purity culture. And after that day, something happened in my mind, my soul, my body. I don't know where it was, but I just felt more empowered. I felt quicker to make decisions. I honestly felt a new part of me emerge, more confident. And it really makes sense if you think about why purity culture is there. It's there as part of the patriarchy to uphold this social hierarchy that puts men at the top. It's control. Exactly. So unpacking purity culture for me was beautiful. It just opened all kinds of new things in me. It's been really fun to explore on an individual basis. It's been so fun to explore on a partner basis. We have so much fun together. Things that were considered kind of bad have been demystified. I think that there are lots of things that you can explore. We talked about this too, that a lot of people think like, should we open up our marriage? And what I would say is that there's a lot that you can do within your marriage without necessarily opening it up to other people. There's so much to explore just even within your relationship and individually. And I think a striptease class would be an amazing adventure. So I would definitely put that on my bucket list.
Yeah. The other thing that was really cool was we did a Thrive conference in St. George 2 years ago where Natasha did this whole like body empowerment presentation and showed all these different naked bodies, whether it was old, model type, or
full figured versus skinny mini versus
exactly,
and they were all beautiful.
Yeah, and that was the one thing I got out of that. Well, no, there was many things I got out of that, but was that that all bodies are beautiful.
She even talked about penis size. She talked about shame in men because of the stature of their penis.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really beautiful. Again, we just have to remember that anything that has been kept in the dark, it's going to have more shame associated with it. And so it's important to unpack stuff and shine light on it. And there's things that we've been taught are like wrong that really, when you try it, you're like, why was that so demonized?
It's like the sex toys thing that enhanced our bedroom, right? In the church, at least I always felt like going to a sex shop would have been bad to buy a sex toy.
Oh yeah, that took like a couple of years for us
to go to. Yeah, that did take us.
And then the first time you're just like, ah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like literally it hurts no one. Like
doesn't.
if you want to watch porn in your own bedroom, like I don't know who that harms. I mean, secrecy is where things harm people. So if you have one partner who is secretly watching it because the other one doesn't know or doesn't agree with it, or that's not a conversation that they can have, that can harm someone, because then you have kind of a feeling of betrayal, right?
I see
But
sex.
I'm just saying, both people on board, like, what does it, who does it harm?
Yeah, I see sex, like even like OnlyFans. If someone wants to go out and show their body off because they feel like empowered to go do that.
I think the worst part of it is the shame that's attached to it.
Yeah.
So if we can just let that go and just understand that these are all the workings of the patriarchy, every single last one of these things attached to
It's
purity
control.
culture is
Control of women.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally
So I
that.
just think, and that's not to say that men don't have shame associated with these things too.
True. That's true.
But I just want to say that I think it's so ridiculous, the word addiction, as it's like associated with pornography, because people can watch porn one time a month, 2 times a week, even if it's like every night before. But I mean, I don't see people missing work and not able to function because of this kind of addiction. And usually when those kinds of addictions do exist, where like you can't go to work, it's more a function of the brain's addiction to something, trying to escape something else, than it is the actual thing being addictive. I think it's actually been proven that porn is not inherently addictive. Like oxycodone is inherently addictive. Painkillers are inherently addictive, right?
Yes.
Pornography is something that can be very healthfully integrated, and it's not like hurting anyone.
Yeah.
Kids shouldn't watch it. It's not for kids.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know anyone that wants to watch that all day long.
Yeah, there might be some people.
There might be
out
someone.
There. Yeah, there might be some.
But
there's all different types of people.
I
out
remember
there.
hearing Natasha say, though, that usually when people do have a self-identified sexually deviant behavior, it's usually tied to some kind of trauma and shame that they have. So really, I think the biggest issue with it is just trauma and shame.
Yeah,
like,
we're not experts in this, right? Natasha's the expert, or Emily is the expert, and we're not a sex therapist or a licensed therapist in this, but. This is what we
and like
know.
we said before, like you also don't have to agree with everything that the experts say. Like you might listen to Sex with Emily. Like I don't agree with everything Sex with Emily talks about. I think that sex should be between people that care about each other. I'm not a fan of like casual sex, but other people would disagree with that.
So
it's just a personal preference.
Someone asked the question, "Are you a swinger?" You've gotten a couple people
I have gotten that question.
Reach out to you and say, "Hey, are you in an open relationship?" And part of that may be because your Facebook had that on there, but are you in an open relationship, or are you a swinger?
You can't just throw that Facebook thing out there without explaining it. So a family member and Jamie, I will not call out the family member, and Jamie, I will call out you.
Yeah.
We're in this battle of like breaking into each other's Facebook accounts and like posting really embarrassing things on there.
Yeah.
And so Jamie posted one on his that said, "Hey, you guys, I've got this huge pimple on my back and I bought this cream for it and it's totally giving me erectile dysfunction. And I'm wondering if anybody can help me." And apparently he was like driving when it happened and had to pull over.
He was driving to Salt Lake City or back home from California.
So for paybacks, he went on to my Facebook profile and put on there that I had an open relationship. And I just discovered, like probably a month ago, that was still on my Facebook as a memory, something I could not erase.
Well, we finally figured out how to erase it, but that was pretty
It's been
funny.
on there since 2016.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure when we left the church, people were like, well, no wonder. They're already swingers.
Yeah, it was either Wes or myself playing jokes on you. So that that was a pretty good joke. That stuck with you for a long time.
Pretty funny. Yeah, pretty funny when you don't even know it happened and it's been on there for the last 8 years. Like, you won.
Well, didn't you have a friend that reached out to you and said, hey, are you okay? Is everything okay?
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. I know exactly who that was too. Yeah. He was like, just checking on you and Jamie. You guys doing okay? Yeah. Never met her.
Yeah. So going back to the question, are you a swinger?
No, we're not swingers.
Yeah, but we're totally fine
Nobody
with that.
really calls it that. It's
The
kind of a
life-
little
in the
bit of an
lifestyle,
offensive
right?
term. Like,
Yeah, are you
we're
in the
swingers.
lifestyle?
Yeah. I mean, it's called the lifestyle. And there's lots of different ways people apply it. Some people have casual sex. Other people find couples that they can have relationships with. They can do like kind of a throuple thing. Yeah, we didn't feel compelled to go in that direction. But I will say,
We
like,
were curious. We were curious about it.
Yeah,
right?
we were. And we actually like sat down with someone and had like a conversation about it. And we just kind of like started playing through the what ifs of it. And we were just like,
It's not for us.
I don't know. It feels a little risky, but I know other people that are in the lifestyle and are doing great with it and they enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I will say there has been an element of openness that we have now with our close friends where there isn't this scarcity or jealousy of like just being more affectionate with friends and just being more open. In the church, there was this like very firm boundary that like you're never alone with another man. Of course, if it's in the bishop's office, we'll solo with the bishop, it's fine. But really, you're not supposed to be with a man on a casual basis if you're a woman.
Yeah, we had friends who wouldn't come into our house. Like if you opened the door, they would not come into the house because you were the only person.
And that's another thing that should have been included in our last episode where we talked about women, because where you exclude women, you're excluding them from important decisions. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like even in the ex-Mormon spaces, there's kind of a brotherhood that women aren't always included in, just because we're so used to this, like, well, the brethren have their thing and it's kind of separate from the women. So it does still kind of segregate us in a way, not in every space, but I just have noticed it. But something about deconstruction is that you just become more open. So like, I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but just like not as much jealousy.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't care if you were like to one of our friends, like hop on my back. I'm going to run through this parking lot. I don't know. Let's race.
Naked?
No.
Just kidding. Totally
Okay.
kidding.
I mean, maybe maybe we are swingers. What is the definition? Exactly. But it's a good conversation to have. So thanks for asking that question. And I feel like that's enough for one episode today.
Yeah. Well, and I have brought up, like, it would be good to do a sex beyond religion conversation.
We have a friend starting a podcast called Sex Beyond Religion.
Yeah.
And she already has an Instagram set up and it looks like it's going to be some great conversations.
Yeah. I do think this is an area that like everybody runs into when you're deconstructing your faith. It's like, one is what is your sexuality? Like
are you attracted
to men?
Yeah. I mean,
or
we did
women?
stop and ask each other that.
Yeah.
I think we both identify just how we did when we got married. So it wasn't an issue for us. But another question that came in that we'll do a whole episode on is from someone who says, I'm gay. I was basically forced to marry a woman. And that was very painful for all parties involved.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until deconstruction that I realized how wrong that was.
Yeah.
Again, back to what we were talking about in the past episode. When you're a fish in the water, you sometimes don't see how bad it is.
Yeah.
Until after you deconstruct.
And you force yourself into a certain box so that you can conform within that system, right?
Right.
And so once that system goes away, then you have to then really question yourself on like some very important things. One could be sexuality. The other one could be gender too.
Right. Yeah.
That.
Deconstructing sexuality is so much more than just the sex that you have in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's being in touch with your body. It's the way you dress. It's the way that you present yourself in the world. Like there's so much to it. And I think that as you unpack the purity culture stuff and you start to own back your body, I think that can be a very beautiful process.
Yeah, because there's a lot of pleasure that comes in with that. Either pleasure with a partner, pleasure with yourself. Like,
and another thing that we talked about last week, I think, that I think is really relevant to this topic on sexuality as well, is that my feeling is that we have like a sacred masculine and a sacred feminine running through us. And when you get toxicity is when there isn't room for the other one. So like toxic masculinity is seen when men aren't allowed to incorporate their tender sides, the features that are consistent with the divine feminine. And same thing with women. Like it can get toxic when you are not allowed to make decisions. You're not allowed to voice your opinions or criticisms because those are inherently masculine features. So as we start to deconstruct our sexuality, it's very important to start integrating those other sides to ourselves.
Yeah. It's okay if you peg me.
Was that a joke?
That was a joke.
I mean, it might be a joke to you, but that might be
No,
serious
it's totally
for someone else.
It's
I mean,
totally serious for someone
else loves that.
Yeah, if they want to do it, all that is open and sex with Emily. We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
So.
She really gets into the details of that kind of thing. But I think it's beautiful. There was a conversation that Jamie and I had recently where I was like, one of us asked the other one, how much am I masculine versus feminine? And I think for you, I gave you 40% feminine and 60% masculine. And I'm like, what would you give me? And you're like, 60% feminine, 40% masculine. So we literally yin and yang.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cool. Like we were talking about it the other night. Like what I would like to watch on TV is like UFC.
That's true.
And what you would like to watch on TV
rom-coms
is you would like to watch a romantic comedy. And I'm like, not to say that that's the only part of it.
No.
And honestly, you are so much better at cleaning and dishes than I am.
That's around your ADHD though.
And
I think.
it's also really sexy to watch you do dishes.
Should I go in my Speedo and do dishes
next time you do dishes?
Would that be better for you?
I think you're pretty good in your like jeans and t-shirt.
Okay.
It's just like sexy no matter what.
So I'll do more of that.
Yeah. So I love that. And when we first got married, I was actually a little bit more handy than you, but I think you passed me up.
Yes,
so,
that's true.
Yeah. So
I would say the first 10 years
we
you
were
more
trying
handy
hard
than
to
me.
break gender norms.
Mm-hmm.
And now like none of that is even associated with gender expectations of
we just show up with who we are.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things in deconstruction that everybody goes through. One is like pleasure for yourself, pleasure for others, or your partner, learning your sexuality,
be comfortable in your own body.
Body empowerment.
There's got to be a class on this, like learning to be comfortable in your own body.
Yeah.
That is definitely part of the rescue. So if we didn't add that, that can be added to the part on the episode of the rescue.
I honestly think that's super important because you don't own your own body in the church.
Yeah.
The church owns that body, or God owns that body. So reclaiming that back and experimenting with it, like be curious and experiment with it, I think is super important. There is lines that you have to be very cautious about because you're dealing with a romantic partner in this. And so,
and when you say lines, what I compute that is like you need to have consent.
Yes.
Each person in the relationship needs to be able to consent. So one person I don't think it's a good idea for one person to go down and like say, hey, I'm going to go to a strip club. I'm not going to tell my wife about this. This is an important part of my deconstruction. I think that might be an important thing to work out with your partner, but again,
you might be crossing a boundary with your partner without realizing it if you do that.
Yeah.
See, I think the key too is about setting those boundaries, because those boundaries all go away once you leave the church, and then figuring out where are you comfortable with that boundary. Some couples might say, I'm comfortable with the boundary as like a hard swap, like, and then that's totally fine with them. Some couples might say, no, I'm not comfortable even going to a strip club. That's their boundary, right?
If you've dropped religion, I think you have to ask yourself, why? Why don't I like it? So initially, I did not like pornography because I did not like the idea that there were people being coerced, that there were potentially sex crimes happening, underage girls. I just looked at it as a very like seedy sort of industry. And I think it's come a long way in the last few years. And I've learned that there are ethical forms and that there are also very unethical forms. So as a consumer, maybe that's worth taking that into consideration. Also, if you feel like, same thing with a strip club, like, is a strip club good? Is it bad? I think about the girls that work there. Do they really want to be working there? Are they, I don't want to go support something that's not victimizing someone. Yeah. Cause for me, I think that the commenter actually said it's not like a sexual experience going to a strip club. It's just like a fun, like a check it off your bucket list kind of thing.
For some, it might be really fun too. So I think there's all different types of people that might. Well,
no, she was saying it wouldn't be like
for her,
sexual.
It wasn't. Yeah, for her, it wasn't sexual. It was more of a checkbox list.
Right. Yeah. And that's how I would probably identify it too. I have not done a strip club. Maybe at some point we'll do something like that. But ultimately, I think what it is about it's about asking why. Why does that feel immoral to me? Like I had someone even say, oh, I wouldn't do cannabis. I don't believe in that. That is against my value system. And so I kind of wanted to challenge that a little bit. Like, what is it? Is it because it's illegal in your state? Is it because it can affect the brain? Is it because it puts you in a state that you don't have all your senses? Like, what is it? It's not to say that none of them are valid, but just make sure that it's not the church's influence on you that makes something arbitrary seem wrong.
Yeah.
When really, in fact, it's just arbitrary.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, anything else to say on this episode?
Nope. This was a
fun
real
one. Thanks
quick
for
one.
Thank you for submitting that.
And I think this is
topic
important
suggestion. That was fun.
Yeah, I think this is an important conversation because this is something that, like, not even a lot of people don't like to talk about this. And so I think having a conversation, normalizing it,
we'll
bringing it
put
forward.
ourselves out there and talk about it.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Faith Unfiltered. If you want to submit a question or a topic suggestion, please go to Faith Unraveled on Instagram and send me a DM. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.